So, Kojima's done it again, and this time without really doing anything. Metal Gear Solid Delta's recently come out, and much like the original, it's a masterpiece. And as it should be. They already had the recipe, all they had to do was follow it, and I'm glad they did. It's cool that a younger generation will get to experience the same game that we did. Now, even though I said this game's a masterpiece, that is more referring to the original game. The remake is fantastic, but it does have a few issues. We can get into that a bit later though. First off, let's start with the positives. One of those being the visuals. The game does look stunning. There wasn't a huge amount that stood out because the whole game just looked great. But there was one notable thing, and that was the face paint. The details on the paint and how it was raised from the skin and the cracks in the paint, it just looks so realistic. I know it's a strange thing to be impressed by, but I was. Now let's touch on the audio quickly. I was very happy to learn that Konami decided to reuse all the original voice lines, and then bring in the original voice actors to record a few new lines. Mainly lines that just updated control schemes and things like that. Another example is when Paramedic speaks to Snake about Godzilla and she mentions that Godzilla's 70th anniversary will be in 2024 and how people will still be watching it even then. The biggest change in the game comes when you play the new style mode. This gives us the ability to play in third person, which brings a more modern feel to the game and comes with a new control scheme. As a lifelong Metal Gear Solid player, these controls didn't feel natural at all at first, but it didn't take too long to get used to them. Don't worry too much, OGs, you still have the ability to play top-down, classic style, or legacy mode as it's now known. Outside of this, the only changes really are quality of life improvements, such as the implementation of the autosave feature, which is handy but it does diminish the difficulty of the Foxhound run quite a bit. You also have the ability to change into previously used camos with a quick menu, which is accessed by just holding up on the D-pad. They are about the only remotely meaningful changes. Now let's jump into the issues I found with the game. And not just the issues, but the things I think they could have added which would have enhanced the experience. First off, I will reiterate, I'm very happy they stayed faithful to the game in ways of story and the way the story was told. However, I wouldn't have been upset if they'd thrown in a few more gameplay elements. Maybe a little update on the CQC to make it a bit more like Phantom Pain. I also wouldn't have been mad if they'd thrown in a few more areas. I wouldn't want changes to the level design that was already there. A few new areas sprinkled in here and there, maybe a gadget, new weapon or two. Wouldn't have gone amiss. Okay, the biggest problem I've run into with this game is the enemy vision cones. They seem to be very inconsistent. On extreme mode I've had enemies fail to spot me when I'm stood literally right in front of them. And at other times I've been spotted by enemies that are 3 stories up and on the other side of the map. This wouldn't be a huge issue in most games, but when you're playing a stealth game and you're trying to get through the whole thing without being seen, and you think you've got the game mechanics nailed, then out of nowhere comes an enemy with Superman's vision and hearing, it can get a little frustrating. Now hopefully this is something that can be fixed in a upcoming patch. Now barring this, I haven't really had many issues. I have heard complaints about performance on the PS5 Pro. I myself am a pauper with just the average PS5, but I had no issues running in performance mode. I did have one strange moment where I was fighting, I believe it was the pain. The game seemed to crash for a second, and when it started working again I was well dead. But that was a one-off for me, I've not had anything like that happen since. Okay, I should probably mention the collector's edition. I've seen a lot of complaints about it, and it really does look quite awful. And I'm quite happy I didn't pay for it. I've been mugged by enough collector's editions at this point that I've made a policy against buying them. Now I've thought about what I would rate this game out of 10, and I've come to the conclusion that it's just not really possible to rate. It is a fantastic game. That's what you'd expect when it's, a replica of a fantastic game. And you really have to give them props for being so faithful. They easily could have gone the other way just to get out of Kojima's shadow. Nothing quite irks me like a writer changing a few elements of the story and then trying to claim it as their own. Now, although I didn't get much new out of playing this, it's my hope that it helps revitalise interest in the Metal Gear Solid franchise. With any luck we get to see remakes of things like Peace Walker and Portable Ops. And maybe even some new entries. I know people don't like to think about new entries without the help of Kojima, but I do still think there's stories to be told. For instance, that of the boss, or maybe what Grey Fox got up to between Zanzibar and Shadow Moses. And then there's the obvious, the remaking of Metal Gear 1 and 2. Because as much as I love Big Boss, Solid Snake's still my guy. So in conclusion, it's quite simple really. If you like Metal Gear Solid 3, you will definitely like Metal Gear Solid Delta. If you didn't like 3, you won't like Delta. And if you never played 3, I highly recommend going out and buying Delta. It's one of those games that I'm envious of people that get to experience it for the first time. And I think that about sums it up. So I shall leave it there. Please like and subscribe if this was helpful to you. Let me know what you think of Metal Gear Solid Delta in the comments. I hope to catch you on the next one.